well, good morning again. So this is an advertised meeting, so we'll go ahead and call it into session. Superintendent, I think you probably have a copy of the agenda there in front of you.
Yes,
So these are your folks.
Sir.
And so I'll just turn it over to you to call them forward as we move down the list.
Yes, sir.
All right.
And I'll probably do the same thing. I'll probably extend that courtesy to Ms. Perry.
Okay.
I do want to say to this board ahead of time, and you've heard some of the words already, and so this is several months in the making to get to where we are today. I used the word at the last meeting, unprecedented. I think this was an unprecedented budget cycle this year. I'm just appreciative to Ms. Perry, to our senior staff, of really looking at this budget. Anytime when you come off the heels of last year where we made adjustments to the budget in the tune of approximately $13 million, and this year in the $6 to $7 million range as well, difficult choices have to be made. As you know, at the district level, we made substantial adjustments, and I think what you're going to see in this meeting as it pertains to the district level, I'm not going to see increases, but what you will see will be the normal increases of salary or as it pertains to health insurance and those types of things. But we wanted to be very mindful in a difficult budget season where we were as a district, and to try to the best of our ability to keep as much away from the schools as possible. So with that, I'll turn it over to Ms. Perry to lead us through this budget meeting.
Thank you. All right, so this year, instead of having two separate books, I've merged them into one book for you. And this book, where the link that I sent you for online, all the departments are in alphabetical order. This book has the departments in the order of the meeting to try to make it easier to go through. So if you will go ahead and turn to page 1. This is the district, the organizational chart for the whole district. The only change we have here is that the CTE department is now moving from the MIS Community Relations over to curriculum. Otherwise, we're pretty much the same. And I know that Mr. Spolsky's area is going to be helping out with the, I think it's the student discipline, right? Athletics, okay. So then the next, starting with page 2, this is general fund, new revenue only. So it's, the first 3 years are the revenue that we received. And then I've got our estimated revenue for 25-26. Now, when you look at this, you'll see, I want to point out a couple of things under the state revenue. You see 3307. This is called Academic Acceleration Option Supplement. This is a new categorical where before, for the ACE, AP, IB dual enrollment, and the CAPE funding, used to be additional weighted FTE, and it would be part of the FEFP. Now it is going to be a categorical, and so it has a separate line. So when you look at the line below that, 3310, which is your general FEFP, it's going up 8.8 million. And then you also know that it would have been more, it would have been 5.7 more if we still had the ACE, AP, and IB in there. So that looks really great, like we're going up 16 million. But what you have to remember is that that includes those family empowerment scholarships, about $23 million worth. Because the previous years, the state has already pulled the money back. So when it's comparing no family empowerment scholarship to family empowerment scholarship revenue. So we don't truly have an increase there.
Actually, what happened? Then that's a decrease of about 7 million.
Right, and what I will do is go over how all of the revenue at the preliminary and tentative budget hearing and exactly how it's going to affect our district. So this is just kind of a quick overview here. And see, And like I said, this, you can't tell, like this is gonna show 1.8 million less because of school recognition, because we don't have the funding yet. So it's hard to tell. You can't really look at bottom line to see how this is. That's why I'm gonna go through something different with you at preliminary and tentative. Okay, but we have gone over individually what our overall budget is gonna be looking like, and we are gonna have a balanced budget despite the budget challenges we're facing. So if you'll go to page 6. What this shows you is the proposed budget for 24-25 beginning of year compared to the proposed budget for 25-26 for the district, department, discretionary budgets, no projects. And we're showing a 2% increase. That increase really should have been more, because most of everything that is budgeted is going to be salaries. As you know, we have it's a high, most of our budget is salaries. Everybody had a 2.63 to a 2.74% increase in pay. That increase was also increased the retirement and the FICA. And then the state also is doing a bigger increase in retirement. And then we also have operating expenses that were increasing that we had no control over. So all in all, to be able to hold it to a 2% is really good. And one of the ways that we did that was the superintendent is proposing $478,000 worth of cuts in the department positions. So that is holding us down to a 2%.
Excuse me, Ms. Perry, when you say department cuts, are you talking
Department positions.
department positions
Yes, sir.
within the district offices, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So basically, we're managing that part of it, so is that,
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
and I think it's, if Mr. Chambers, if it's okay, so I know we had a discussion not too long ago about the visual that we are creating jobs within the district as recently as our last board meeting, which is obviously that's not the case. We are not creating. As a matter of fact, the one job that we filled has been vacant for how many years now?
Yeah, one job that we filled was a vacant position. And then the other job, which was approved, we eliminated a position to fund that position, which actually turned out to be a savings.
Correct. So I bring this up just so if anybody thinks that on the district side here that this is the last to be taken, to be managed, it's actually the first. I know, Mr. Chambers.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I can barely hear you.
I'm saying that managing the budget starts first at the district
Yes,
side
sir.
of it, and then, like Mr. Chambers says earlier, he does not want to see it go into the schools, but eventually that's the last part of it, going into the schools, so.
Right, we did have to
Yes.
work with the school some too. Because one of the things that was decreasing our budget was a lower FTE.
Yes.
And when you have less students, you have to, normally it's maybe less teachers.
Right. And if I'm not mistaken, as long as I've been on the board, I know our district staffing pattern is usually, it's been lower than most districts our school size, if I'm not mistaken.
No, absolutely. You look at the last time that we researched it, like-sized district offices, we are a much leaner district office than others.
Okay. Well, page 7 is just a breakdown by object that shows, you can see kind of where the money is, like 0100. We talked about salaries would go up, that's a larger part, 0111. But that just gives you an overview of all of the departments, where the money is going up and down. What we're going to do is we're going to look at each one and see how they're affected. And then page 8 shows you this budget overall, how much is salaries and benefits and how much is operational. Like I said, almost 31 million is the positions. It's only 5 million in operating. And then if you will go to page 10, and like I said, all the comparisons are from the beginning of 24-25 to the beginning of 25-26. We have to pick a moment in time. And overall, it's showing a 2.72 decrease in positions, but some of those positions were also in general fund project area, which is not reflected here. That's why you're not seeing all of those position cuts reflected right here. All right, so we're going to start with Dr. Hale's area on page 11. So he is over human resources, professional services, risk management, and the print shop. Print shop has a separate project budget, so that's not going to be in here. And page 12 shows how his budget compares, and you can see, well, there's a $900 increase in supplement because you approved professional technical employees to be paid for doing payroll, a supplement for payroll. That's why that's there. You can see normal increases for salaries, retirement, FICA. You see an increase in medical insurance. It's only because, in this case, we were making sure to reflect his assistant's insurance in his budget rather than in her husband's, because the way we pay for two-employee insurance, it all is budgeted to one cost center. So it's not an increase. It's just a better reflection of what we're paying. And then he's got dues and fees that are moved over from his other budget, because what happened was last year for 24-25, we gave him his own cost center. And so we realized that the dues and fees really just applied to him and not HR. So he asked to move those over to his. But there's going to be the same reduction in HR.
I have a question in general about retirement. Where does it stand now? Are some of the employees paying into retirement and then others have been grandfathered, so they're not? So how does that affect our budget?
No, several years ago, all employees started having to pay 3%
Okay.
into their own retirement.
Okay.
Yeah.
So where does that affect us as far as the district paying?
The three, oh, you mean how much we're going up 0.4%. Overall, for the whole district, I'm projecting it to be about an additional $1 million in retirement costs for that 0.4%
But
increase.
if so that's just our part? Mm-hmm. Okay, so we pay a part and then they have to put in their 3%?
They have to pay the 3%.
Okay, so the district still does pay in part of it?
Oh,
where
yes, ma'am.
before
We pay the
did
majority.
all of it, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes,
And
it's
Ms.
going.
Perry, when you say the employees pay 3%, where does that come from?
They're out of their paycheck. It's a deduction, just like when they pay their income taxes.
Specifically, is that a district initiative or is that a state initiative?
That's a state.
State. Oh.
Thank you.
The state has required that. All right, so this was the special sheet that I did just for this budget workshop to just be able to see the detail by object. Then the next section is going to be what's in the regular budget book, which is the staffing chart. It shows his two positions. I've added a staffing chart in there for you with showing the names of the people that are filling the position. That's not online. That's just for your budget. And then the next few pages are what's out there online. And this tells like what the department does, description of the department. It shows the appropriations, like we just went over, we looked at line by line. These are object groups, 0300s, 0400s, and it shows number of positions, because he didn't change any in positions. The next page shows his actual requests for his operating budget. Just kind of give you an idea of how these forms work. And then page 17,
Page 16.
for every department, you're going to see a staffing summary. And the way you would read a staffing summary, and I'm going to point out any changes that happen, but the way, if anybody asked, what does a staffing summary mean? Section A, that's how we started the year. If there were any changes during the year that you approved, it would be in section B1. And then if there's any changes that we are asking for, that would be in section B2. And then section C would be the positions for the new year. That way you can always see what you have. So then the next page, 18, that is the Human Resources Department. And you can see that out of the $31,000 increase, it's $9,000 in non-instructional salary, $13,000 in admin. Then there's corresponding benefits. Really the only increase in the operating budget is about about $700. So they've done a really good job of keeping everything, I'm sorry, I'm tongue-tied. All right, and then, like I said, you can see then their staffing grid, the staffing chart, and the staffing chart with names, and then details, should you want to review those. But they're not requesting any changes in positions.
So I was just noticing some of the positions there. So this is everybody that's within the Human Resource Department that's on this staffing structure here?
Yes, sir. Anybody that is assigned to that center
Okay.
at 9004.
So-
And if they're at a project, then I have them on there, but these are all discretionary.
Okay. So I noticed that we have 4 units for district level secretary, 12 months, 3 positions filled, 1 vacant. So those 3 that are.
She's asking about the vacant position here.
So I'm not asking about the vacant position. Obviously, you don't need to fill it because you haven't filled it.
Well,
Right.
Actually, we have an employee that will be starting July 1.
Okay. So I guess my question is do they have a specific job duty besides just being a secretary? Are they?
Well,
mean-
within the Human Resources Department, each person kind of has a siloed area of responsibilities. They all help each other out, but like, for instance, last year, you'll remember in the budget, Ms. Santos was responsible for substitutes. Ms. Medina was in charge of fingerprints.
Okay.
And like that.
Okay, so I appreciate you explaining that, and out of just the privacy, we won't mention the names. I just was just curious. You know, we have 4 units there. Obviously, we're going to fill the 4th one. I was just looking at the staffing, the amount of people that are there. What are they actually doing if they're a secretary? So that's why I was
Yes,
just
they
asking.
all have their individual job categories that they support.
Okay.
So are there any other questions about the Human Resources Department? Okay, so page 26 is the beginning of the professional services. The overall increase is $3,600, and everything is due to salaries, just normal salary increases. There were no positions changed during the year, and there are no position requests for the new year.
And you're on page 26, Ms. Perry?
Pardon?
You're on page 26?
Yes, sir, that was page 26. Then page 20. All right, page 27. Yeah, but yes. But Lee was pointing out his consulting teachers have 1 reduction, but that's in a project is the only reason I didn't say that here, because we were just going over the discretionary positions. But on page 27, his staffing chart, see the yellow, that's our consulting teachers. Anything that's yellow, we indicate that it's kind of like an itinerant position, something that's out there working at the schools. And you can see that those are through a project. But number 2013, that means that's the project number. So otherwise,
Money comes out of project money instead of the
yep, Yes, so discretionaries, and this book is only the discretionary budget. So when you look at the staffing chart, you can see discretionary covers the program director, certification analyst, and then the other positions are all covered through different projects, whether it be Title II or consulting teachers or certification fees. We find different ways to be able to fund the positions. So does anyone have any questions about professional services?
I just have one comment. So, Mr. Chambers, I believe this is the department where we had teachers that were in the classroom, but then came and they would help with teachers out, you know, what do we call them?
Consulting teachers.
Consulting teachers. So, and I understand that you reduced that significantly, so.
Not significantly. From the previous years where we made an adjustment for this past year,
Right.
and now we made an additional one this year.
Okay. So you did make a reduction?
Correct.
Yes, okay.
All right, then page 33 is the beginning of the risk management department. Now, they did go up 75,000. The biggest part of the increase is going to be in the salary non-instructional. The superintendent is requesting to upgrade 2 risk management analysts from pay grade C to pay grade B. But that also includes any other increases for other people too. It's not all just for that increase. And then the director position, there was a $12,000 increase there, and it's not because there was a $12,000 raise. What happened in that instance is 24-25, the position was vacant. We budgeted it at mid-level. The person that filled it was a little bit higher than mid-level. And so, and those kinds of things. So it's not only just the salary increases, it's also if people come and go during the year. You know, between last year and this year, you could have a different person that's higher paid or lower paid, somebody that takes insurance, somebody that doesn't take insurance. We budget all these at actual cost.
Now, the amount that we see here on salaries, does that include the, some benefit or whatever like paying their,
You mean the 59,000
yeah, whatever it shows for anybody, is
for
that
anybody?
their base salary, or is that encompassing all?
The base salary is the 0100 or for non-instructional. 0111 is admin managerial.
Okay.
0131 instructional, and 0161 is professional technical. Those are just base salaries. Then you go down to 210, which is your retirement. Your 220 is your FICA. And then the 230s are the insurance.
So, okay,
So all of those are the cost of the employee.
and that's on,
Oh.
you're on what page?
Yeah, I'm looking at 33 still.
Oh, okay, back
And
on.
I'm talking in
Yeah.
general, the O1s are going to be your base salary. That's going to be what they actually receive, whether it's a base salary, a supplement, overtime, a workshop salary. The O1 is what the employee receives. The O2 are our benefit costs.
Okay.
So the risk management, then you can see on page 34, their staffing chart. And then the names, and then the normal paperwork here. And like I said, their operating budget actually went down. You can see that easily on page 36. In 0300s, it went down $11,000. So do you have any questions about professional services? Or any questions at all for Dr. Hale? All right. Thank you. All right, then we have Ms. Lightbourne's section. hers is gonna begin on page 40. All right, you can see Ms. Lightbourne, shows the departments that she's over: curriculum and instruction, staff development, and student assessment. And then curriculum and instruction oversees career and technical ed, exceptional student education, and SIS, ESOL, psychologist, health services. And that one in turn oversees SIS, attendance, discipline, and athletics. So page 41, this is the Assistant Superintendent Cost Center. And you can see there are no increases in operating. And this going up $10,000 in medical insurance. That's again where we were trying to be a little bit more accurate, and where Martha Adams, her husband's, they have all the insurance on his pay. Instead, I'm showing it partially in this department so that we can be more accurate, but no increase. And then she's got there's her two positions, discretionary. She hasn't asked for any changes.
And just as we go forward,
Yes, sir.
let's just not use names.
I realized that as soon as I said it. Thank you, sir.
I was gonna say that again.
Okay, so no changes are requested in that department. Then page 48 is career and technical education. This one used to be under Mr. Spolsky, and now it's being moved into the curriculum area. When I look at the breakdown for the department, you can, and like for what I mentioned to you earlier, how it's based on the actual people in the positions, you can see that 0111 admin managerial went down, and it's just because there was a personnel change. Okay? And so the only thing I would want to point out in this budget is the $19,000 increase in 0360 lease and rental, but that's because the hospital rental agreement went up. And that's where they have all their classes.
How long is that lease?
Well, I don't know how long the lease is, but I know that we did a lot of construction in there in order to, that's where we have the nursing program that we were funded through Triumph. And that lease is part of our, what do you call it, matching costs with the Triumph grant.
That's a pretty good increase for the hospital. I mean, that's over 20%. Okay.
20 grand.
So then, in her department on page 49, the discretionary budget pays for the program director, and it pays for one CTE data technician, but then we're using CAPE funding to enhance that department by getting a specialist, another CTE technician, and a teacher on special assignment.
And
So
I
that's
think,
paid for with the
didn't we
CAPE
just
money.
approve that at our last board meeting for that other?
The CTE specialist.
Specialist.
And I just want to be sure that
Okay.
we're all on the same page. When we say getting, so this is the structure from the previous year, so this is not a different structure.
That somebody
This is
needs to
just the
change.
reality of what's
Yeah.
there.
Probably cheaper.
At that point, yeah, it was her. Okay. So, no other changes requested for CTE? Do you have any questions about the CTE department? And we can go on to page 55, which is the curriculum budget. There's no changes requested in operating.
Well, that's because we switched.
We had a district coordinator in curriculum, and that position was deleted. And you see that there's a note number 2 there. We deleted that position with your approval January 14th and made it a secretary instead. You also approved the deletion of a .8 specialist and addition of director. You approved that on May 12th. Then there's a specialist that's been in Center 9020, but was really more accurately reflected in Center 9017. So that was staff development. Now that person will be in curriculum. So even though you see an increase there in curriculum for that specialist, you will see a decrease in staff development also for that specialist. And then we are requesting to add one specialist math, but that would be funded by deleting a program director in Center 9021, which is the SIS ESOL. And you can see the many positions in curriculum on page 56. And their different fundings. Do you have any questions about curriculum?
Curriculum,
Uh-huh.
is that the biggest department that is in it? People-wise?
Well, it's big, transportation's big, maintenance is big. But curriculum would make sense to be very big,
Yeah,
but,
it would.
because that's what we do, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So are we trying to fill principal evaluation, Director One?
That is filled.
It's filled.
It's filled,
Yeah,
okay.
we put it on that.
Yes, these were done at a point in time
I
when,
got it.
yeah, we just filled that curriculum.
So, just real quick question leading up to that. Of course, the last meeting, we did make those approvals. Is it safe to say that some of the vacancies that are already listed here are already filled? That, or just part of, I see a lot of vacancies there, like Mr. Heinley pointed out, so. And we know some have been filled because this was done before.
Well, like the special, where it says specialist vacant on 5 units, that's the one that we're requesting, that math specialist.
Okay.
And we can't fill that unless it gets approved at the preliminary and tentative, and then we'll advertise that and fill it. So that's got to be vacant right now. Let's see. And I can't, this program director. But these things with the names and the vacancies and things, these are not out there for public record.
Right. But it is the intention, if they're say vacant, to be filled, correct?
Correct.
Pardon? Yes.
If it says vacant on here right now, it is the intention to fill that position?
Yes, sir.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, so then page 62 is the ESE department. Everything is, looks like the only thing in operating is a $7,000 increase in professional technical services. But they have requested that increase based on the actual expenditures for 24-25. They did decrease a little bit in some other areas. And ESC, there's a lot of the positions at ESC on page 63, you can see are out at the school level. But this is just to give you an idea of who they report to. And then if you go to page 70, is staff development. And that's the position I mentioned that was moved to curriculum. And you can see the reduction here on page 70 for staff development. Otherwise, there's no changes requested there. Page 76 is student assessment. At the discretionary project, we only have a position there, and this is just normal increase based on raises. And page 81 That's the student intervention services, attendance, discipline, and athletics. And again, those are just your modest increases based on, those are based on normal salary increases, except for one that I wanted to point out, the 0100. You can see an increase of almost 12,000. That's because the secretary position was vacant in 24-25, and it was filled with someone with more experience. The overall operating is just almost neutral.
So go back to the district level secretary 12-month, you said, can you explain that again? I was trying to keep up.
That when we budget a vacant position, we budget it at mid-year, at mid-grade, pay 8, just something middle of the road. When it was filled with somebody that had more experience. That's why you see an increase in cost of almost 12,000 instead of what you would think would be like a 2.74% increase. So you see a bigger increase because that person had more experience than the vacant amount that I budgeted. Since I don't know who's going to be in it, I always have to budget at the mid-range.
So right now we have one, is that what you're saying? We have one?
And yes, sir. Well, let's see. 2.
Okay.
But there was one vacant and at the beginning of the year and one not, and one filled. But now they're both filled. All right, then, let's see, page 88. The Student Intervention Services, ESOL Psychologists and Health Services. We are requesting to delete the program director in order to fund the math specialist and curriculum. So you see a decrease there, the base salary of $102,000. And the insurance cost is just because there was a change in personnel, is why, because we're not increasing our group, our medical insurance is not increasing for the new year. So if you see any kind of increases or decreases in medical insurance, and no changes in no changes in the number of positions, it's because somebody else has filled it, because they've changed their mind about taking insurance or not, or the different kinds of insurance that we offer. They all have a little bit different price tags, but overall, we are not making a change in our medical. All right, so then, let's see. I believe that is the end of Sheila's area. Do you have any questions for Ms. Lightbourne or me? We're good? All right, the next one is mine. So I'm over accounting, budgeting, payroll, and purchasing. And the superintendent is requesting that my payroll supervisor, who's on the managerial pay chart, be changed to a program director on the admin pay chart, which is why you'll see a larger increase than expected up in the salaried objects. And then I had to adjust my budget a little bit here and there. Overall, the operating is going up about $3,000.
And that adjustment, and I didn't hear correctly, but that adjustment in the payroll area with the amount of the volume of work that happens there, and to have somebody over that responsible for that area is part of the rationale of that adjustment.
Okay. And so the payroll department is part of my cost center. So when you see myself and my admin assistant, you also see the payroll program director and the 3 payroll clerks. Then if we can go to page 105 is the accounting department. we're not asking for any kind of position changes. You see some decreases in 0100 non-instructional salary and in group health insurance. That's just because of change in personnel. And then we were trying to stay as budget neutral as possible. Everyone has done a really good job about keeping their operating budgets within reason.
So, for these positions,
Mm-hmm.
the positions don't dictate the salary, but their pay grade does, or their experience level?
Both, yes, because there's certain, the positions are paid based on a certain pay grade. And then however many, what their experience is their step. And then that's how the ed support still has steps. The rest of the positions now, they've used the step more as a placement, and now it's just percentage increases. So we don't change steps anymore. Then the budgeting is going to begin on page 113. So you're going to see a large increase in 0100 of 48,000, but then you also see a decrease in 0161 of 82,000. That's because I had a financial analyst leave the district, and when a financial analyst leaves, it gets filled with an accountant. Accountant's on the ed support level. Financial analyst is professional technical. After an accountant's been with us 5 years, then they're eligible to be upgraded to an analyst position. So, all right, and then 120 is purchasing. These are just normal increases due to salaries and benefits. No other changes are requested in there. That's the end of my section. Are there any questions or about that? And then I have the superintendent section starting 127. And of course, you know, he's over all of us. And I wanted to point out, he hasn't requested any increase in operating. The only increases are salary-wise, and it's that again, that's a payroll supplement. And the superintendent's salary, just like your salaries, are all dictated by the state. We have to use the Florida Office of Economic and Demographic Research annual report. They tell us how much to pay.
I think that's important to state versus an appointed superintendent versus an elected superintendent. So
Yeah.
the salary is dictated by the state when it comes to an elected superintendent, whereas.
Oh, see, I didn't, yeah, I know that with elected it is, I didn't.
Right,
know.
but with appointed, this is why when people would say, well, Mr. Chambers is getting, this big raise, well, that's because the state has
Oh, yes,
implemented that.
it is the state.
It wasn't that we negotiated a contract with him like you would with an appointed superintendent.
Yeah, and just like
Exactly.
us, we can't get more
Right.
than that.
Exactly.
Right, everybody at the dais is.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to make sure and point that out, that it
Yeah.
was not, it was
Constitutional.
not a decision that any of you
Yep.
made or
Correct.
anything.
We
It's-
don't vote on our salaries like some people do.
All right, and then the page 135 is the school board. And same thing, salaries, but we know why the salaries are based on what the state tells us to pay. And we did increase professional technical services. The SRO contract, we needed a little bit more money in there for your board meetings.
And that's our main expenses, right?
Pardon?
For the board, that's our main expenses, right?
Yes, ma'am. The 310, the most, I don't, let me see what exactly is in 310. And if you ever want to know exactly, if like for instance, 310, what's in there, that's where this sheet comes in.
Okay.
And it tells Like this is security services for evening board members. Board meetings, so that's what that is.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Then we have.
What's lease and rental agreements under ours?
The lease and rental,
What is that?
Copy machine.
copiers,
Oh, okay.
copier and fax.
Okay.
Mhm. All right, Mr. Spolsky? All right, so starting page 142. Mr. Spolsky is over digital media and communications, information systems, which is over couriers. He's over community affairs, forecasting and SIS services, reporting and ERP services, and school safety. So on page 143, that's an overview by object of his budget. And what's going on there, when we started 24-25, and we knew we needed another assistant superintendent, we were trying to have them share and add, he and Mr., what's your name? Mr. Meyer. We're gonna try to share an admin assistant, 50-50, but we realized that was too much to ask for one person. So you approved adding another one. So that's why you're gonna see a little bit of an increase for that admin assistant in here.
Is that object 161?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
But that's why. Otherwise, they did go, a little bit up in travel, but he cut in some other areas. Then, page 150 is community affairs. And those are normal salary increases. Now, the operating did go up in computer equipment and dues and fees. The computer equipment, they put that they needed a postscript printer, poster. I guess it prints posters.
Yes, ma'am. Large
Yes.
scale.
And dues and fees, they felt like they needed a little bit more in that fingerprinting money for the chaperones. And that was based on previous expenditures.
Mr. Spolsky, it's my first trip through this process. Can you explain to me exactly what Community Affairs does? It's not a very big department, it seems.
It's not that large, sir. We engage with the community not only through the foundation, but we screen all of our people that want to come into our schools using our Raptor technology and those pieces. Our job, our mission is to essentially make sure we have a bridge between us and our business partners, our foundation partners, and the community. It's very important that we get out there and we control that narrative.
Thanks.
So I'm seeing on the office manager for community affairs, on page 151, it has .88 discretionary and the other is .12.
Yes. Yes.
And then the next page though, why, is that the same? On page 152?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
I think one has the name, Ms. Savanchek, on each.
Oh,
one.
that's the only difference.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I was thinking, why are we
Yes.
doing 2 pages the same?
ma'am.
Okay,
Yes,
thank
and
you.
and that 12% is what the foundation sends in to help pay for that.
Right, yeah,
position.
we help fund it, yeah.
All right, then, page 157, courier services. This is just normal ups and downs with different people taking positions. You can see changes in medical insurance, a little bit bigger in 0100 just because we had some turnover in employees. Gasoline costs went up a little bit, but otherwise, everything looks good there.
Isn't some of their salary paid for by contracts we have with, like,
Couriers?
yes.
Not really. We do receive like 9,000 a year from the county to help with the courier services, but I don't budget that to a separate place. I just
Right.
use that as part of the overall budget to
When,
help.
and when
fund
you
it.
say the county, I believe that's the library, correct? Is that what, when you say the county, that's the library?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Then page 163 is the digital media and communications. I see a lot of different changes, a lot of ups and downs there. Let me see what the overall. Overall on the operating, it's about a $15,000 increase. Most of it is in print, other purchase services for printing and copying. The thing is that looks like it's an increase, but they ended up needing money for projects that they didn't realize that they were going to need at the beginning of 24-25. Like when we do that really nice booklet,
Annual report.
yes, the annual report. So we made sure and we budgeted it now, so we don't have a surprise later on.
Yeah.
Then page 170 is forecasting and SIS services. Those are the normal things with personnel, and just a $2,400 increase in operating, very small.
Did we used to call that something else? To what?
What'd you say?
When we went to
Oh.
Focus, Ms. Evancheck, we divided the ERP side of the house. The MIS was what we used to call the whole thing. Now we do ERP and also SIS.
Well, we did into three.
I just don't recall the
'Cause
forecasting
Yeah, it
piece.
used to be just information systems.
Yeah, okay.
And so it became information systems and forecasting and SIS services and reporting and ERP services, just to make it,
Gotcha.
yeah.
Okay.
And then page 176 is the information systems. At that point, January 14th, we added a computer operator one with your approval and deleted a .4 district secretary. And then we are requesting to delete one mobile learning analyst, which is professional technical, and 3 IT field techs, which are ed support, because we have gone now to the seat management contract on iPads. So won't have these positions. Then, let's see, page 185. That's that other branch, that's that reporting and ERP services. There were no changes in positions or anything, so these are just the normal changes for salaries, no requested changes in operating. Page 191 is school safety. And with that one, the safety department has gotten busier and busier with all of the requirements from the state. So August 27th, you approved adding a secretary to that department. Then at the beginning of July, we deleted a .6 tech, safety security management. And then at this point, the superintendent is requesting to upgrade the program director to a director position. But that cost is all inclusive in that $478,000 savings that we mentioned.
I just wanted to comment that you just made a statement about, safety, the safety position, how it's growing and all that, because a lot of things are being added to us through statutes and all that. There is, just so people know, that there is jobs that are in the district that were created because the law told us to create these positions.
Yes.
I think media specialist was one. School safety was, of course, a huge thing after Parkland. So again, we're kind of bound because the law tells us we have to have these positions and all. So, so people wonder, you know, why do we have this particular position? It's because the law says we have to have this particular position, and because we also have stated on the dais that all of us take safety seriously. So, you know, if it's growing, we're going to still continue to provide that level of safety, you know, for our students and teachers and everybody who comes on our campuses and also.
Oh, yes. Oh, that's one of. All right, so let's see if the rest of that budget. Otherwise, the operating is a lot of ups and downs, but there's nothing majorly substantial there. And that's the end of Mr. Spolsky's departments, if you have any other questions for him. Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Perry.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Myers, I remember your name now.
Don't feel bad, you've been working hard the last, you've been working hard this whole summer, but the last 10 days in particular.
Okay, so Mr. Myers over the Carver Hill Complex, custodial services, facilities planning, maintenance, the Niceville Central Complex, school food service, and transportation. So on page 200 is his cost center. And this, you're going to see an increase in that 0161 professional technical, because like we spoke about, he originally was only going to have a half of an admin assistant. We realized he really needed a whole admin assistant, and thank you for agreeing to that. Then the 0111 shows an increase of 29,000 because there again, that position was vacant. I budgeted it mid-range, and it was filled with higher cost. And so operating looks good. Page 207 is Carver Hill. One thing I want to point out there, you're going to see in 0360 an increase of $75,000. That is for the Okaloosa County fiber optic lease agreement that we have to do. But then we were able to save $60,000 in the internet, so it almost balanced it out.
I use what they give me.
On page 215, custodial services, just positions, very minimal. That custodial services department is the district level secretary, and then the zone managers and all the department positions, the school positions, they're all funded at a project. Page 222.
So real quick, back to the
Yes, sir.
zone managers. We have 4 zone managers.
sir.
What zones are they? Explain to me what the zones
Yeah,
are.
so there's a north zone, central zone, and the south zone is split into 2. So most of Fort Walton and then South 98 all the way to Destin.
Okay.
Are most zones got an equitable amount of custodial employees bundling up to each of them?
That's based on the square footage of the site. That's separate from this budget.
Okay.
Yeah, that's through the school's budget. But yes, it is equitable.
Anything else? All right, page 222, facilities planning. There was $135,000 that I've moved out of facilities planning and into the maintenance budget. The reason I did that was because these were some inspections and such that are allowed statutorily to be paid for with capital funding. And since I fund maintenance department with capital funding, I wanted to move it over there.
Okay, so wait a minute, you did what, you moved what to?
There was 135,000, anything that's related to, what is it called? It's, with like
To capital.
inspections and like in contaminants and things like that, I can pay for ultimately with capital through the maintenance department. Because the maintenance department and discretionary, the way I fund it is with a transfer from capital funds. So that made sense to take it out of general and move it into capital.
And that's the only area that you do that, right? That you move?
That, yes, the only department is maintenance that I
Okay.
transfer. Now, I pay for a portion of bus driver salaries and benefits also with a capital transfer, 4.8 million in that.
And are we doing
And
that
that's
for
best,
the,
yeah, a few years ago, the state allowed us to do that.
and you're gonna do that for the upcoming year?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, and that's, I'm able to do that because the state gives us 7 point something million for transportation, but transportation costs 15 million. So we're able to help the general fund budget out by using some capital money for that. All right, so then page 229, no, 230, maintenance. This is one that I was saying is funded with the capital money, with capital transfer. That, we had a few changes during the year. We added some site-based techs and changed them to athletic-based with field maintenance, filled a couple. I know that superintendent talked with each of you about the way that we're going to be handling stadiums now. So the ultimate change, really more, if we hadn't moved the $175,000 over there, we would have had a decrease because the whole department only went up 113. Then page 239 is the Niceville Central Complex. We did add 2 cleaners to this complex. That way you approved that August 20th. And when we first did the budget, we had moved everything that was originally at the Bay Area office, all the operating that was there, we had moved it into here for beginning of 24-25. And as you can see from some of these decreases, we are saving money by having everything in this one place. So like we were able to reduce telephone by 5,000, reduce the electricity by 10,000. So that's really been a really big help. Then page 246 is Transportation Central. Salary increases. We are requesting to upgrade the route coordinators at all 3 transportation departments from pay grade 12 to pay grade 11 on the managerial salary schedule. And that is reflected up here in the budget. And that's what you're going to see on each of these. Looks like we, page 255, the Transportation North. They're actually going down in that cost center, which is, some people didn't take insurance, which is surprising. Software subscriptions, they were lowering. They must have found some less expensive software.
We are eliminating the bus bulletin because we're going to ThrillShare and the other program.
And transportation's budget is based on all the positions being filled, correct?
right.
So,
Yes.
which we,
And of course, if we have vacant positions, then we're paying people usually overtime or something in
Right.
order to run those runs. So we use the money that we budgeted in the vacant position to pay for those things. And then page 265 is the last one. And those are the department discretionary budgets. If anybody has any questions about any of Mr.
Well,
Myers?
First of all, thank you. A lot of work, a lot of work. And just general commentary is too bad that costs don't go down when revenue goes down.
Yes.
Okay? Any questions, colleagues, or concerns? Superintendent, anything?
No, just appreciate the board, and what folks may not know is you all took the time to sit down with myself and Ms. Perry, and I very much appreciate that. That ranged from an hour to about an hour and 45 minutes. So just really appreciate you taking the time to go through with these, ask questions. I think that makes a difference as we go through this process. Again, Ms. Perry and her group doing a great job, but senior staff as well, of being mindful of where we are budgetarily and making decisions accordingly. So I just appreciate that.
Yep. Thank you, sir. Mr. Attorney, anything else?
No, sir.
All right, colleagues, see you back tonight.
So stinking tongue-tied, I can't.